Greetings, campers. Let's see if this will allow me to stream. I tried this 3 or 4 times last night and it kept disconnecting and saying try to reconnect. Interesting. So, if this thing dies out, we'll try it again. This is very weird. So, where did we leave off last time? We were talking about birds of fire winging the infinite, yes? Well, I think we're going to switch to the ground game. And I've been speaking with our friend, Sibel Edmonds. We've had a couple of amazing conversations, and Sibel will be joining us in the very near future to explain one of her plans that I like a lot of organizing people in Florida. And basically, the ground game is networking and connecting, so it's good stuff. And the concept is to prevent mandatory vaccines, to prevent masks, and what was the third one? I forgot, but it's right there, to create legislation and build a database so we can then present and appear and say, hey, we've got a large group, so we're going to break it up into various regions, regional organizers, and I'm going to put her in touch with Vilma, and we'll probably have a chat either later tonight or tomorrow to help come up with the structure and how to best do that. I'm thinking Zoom meetings might be the best, and possibly a separate web page for that. Doesn't that sound exciting? Sibel is excellent, and we've really had a couple of ridiculously long, amazing conversations, and I told her I would definitely mention her. I wanted to be more dramatic and say, we're going to have a special guest to come on board, but there you go. Now you know. Great stuff. In fact, I'm late because I was just on the phone with her again for an hour and a half and ran through the whole trip and explained to her the concept of Sabbatean Frankists, which she didn't know. So I turned her on to Robert Seffer's book, 1666, and the great videos that he has discussing that. I don't know if you guys paid attention. I think most of us have. Haven't we? Good to see you. I turned the comments off because, or the chat, I figured that may have been interfering. But so far, so good. And I'm glad my blue shirt looks red. I'm kidding, it's red. Oh, good. Now, here's a philosophical thought. This goes to our discussion with Harry the other day, right? And it clicked. So a lot of these companies are demanding, what's he looking for? You know. Are demanding that their employees have vaccines, right? So now, the government isn't doing it, but companies are. So this is their version of a public-private partnership and a kind of a third-party proxy. The government can't mandate that. They might, but right now they can't. So why should they bother when they could have private business do it and then compensate private business through COVID funding or emergency relief funding because of the so-called pandemic? It wasn't created by COVID. We know that, right? It was created by government. And one more thing before we dig into today's wild news, and there's really too much happening, but we'll do our very best to make some sense out of it for you. The other point on that COVID thing was John Rappaport. I will find the link and put this in after the show. He did, on his email, an excellent discussion of the PCR tests and the fact that the FDA says 40 revolutions or cycles, which is beyond 35, which Fauci says is meaningless. So right there lies the problem. Our government facilitating a fraud. And who hands out that money? That would be HHS overseeing the FDA. So they're working in cahoots for conjunction, aren't they? Okay, just a little food for thought. That is Rappaport's discussion. So the first one, we've got our deadline. Today's the 18th. This was the 45 days for the DNI to issue his report, and he's not issuing it because of his loyal, patriotic intelligence community has delayed. So what are they going to do? They're going to stretch it? Okay, but he says there was definitely interference. China, Russia, Iran. I don't know. You think there was Russian interference. Then you've got this guy Krebs, which is the one that Trump fired a couple of weeks ago, who said the election was completely secure. Now, there is another clip somewhere in here where somebody explains what Krebs was saying. This is actually Senator Ron Johnson. And he's saying when Krebs said it was secure, he didn't mean that there wasn't fraud, that there wasn't dead people voting, that it didn't mean that illegals and non-registered people weren't voting. He meant it was secure that there was what? No computer hacks externally. Now that's interesting. So now the DNI is going to say they did, or is China doing it through agents on the ground where they manipulate the count? So then the real question is, the testimony that we have here by the Dominion CEO, this is about 3 links down, this is the full hearing, and then 2 links past that is John Poulos from Dominion saying their machines can't reassign votes. Now, if you've been paying attention on the Farmer Jones channel, you know that we put up a clip of an election supervisor from Georgia demonstrating and explaining how you can assign votes to wherever you want. Now, here's the problem, and I screamed about this a month ago. If you go and you have your ballot, and that's created by a computer, so you check the box for Biden, and it comes out. It prints the ballot, but on top is a barcode. So you take that ballot and say, oh yeah, it says what I said it said, and then you put that piece of paper that was computer generated with a barcode into the machine. How do you know what that barcode says? It just says it was counted, but it doesn't say where it went. Now, so maybe Biden didn't get that vote. Well, maybe he got other votes. Very strange. So that seems to violate the whole concept of a paper trail, doesn't it? If the only thing being read is a barcode, and you can't read it, and that sounds like non-transparency, doesn't it, campers? All right, so let's drop up to the top. ODNI says the report on foreign threats during 2020 is delayed. This is an Epoch Times little clip. Good stuff. And of course, the link is there to download the app. And if you haven't, you should, because just scrolling through their headlines, there's so much material coming up. You can't believe it. The next one is Kayla McEnany, her press conference, which I didn't even watch the whole thing. I'm putting this in for you so you can see her enthusiasm about getting the vaccine, and it was done in record time, etc., etc. Now, I find that disgusting, but let's go look at this another level. Let's talk about the Geneva Convention. Let's talk about experimental drugs being forced upon people. Well, we have a propaganda and a media blitz and a government blitz and mask mandates, etc., and restrictions that seem to be only going to be looked at being lifted after you've been vaccinated. Plus, you have to prove you've been vaccinated, so you have to have your little ID card, your papers, please. So, nobody's being forced to do it. Everybody who is taking this vaccine is lining up to do it, so they're arguably have a defense to the Geneva Convention charge, if there is one, that it's experimental and it's forced. Okay, they could say it's experimental, but people volunteered for it. But they're saying it's safe and effective. But then again, there is no liability. Speaking of which, there is a little bit in the, I don't know if it's in the NDAA or is it in the budget, what are we calling this, the COVID, I'm call it the COVID bailout bill. They're calling it a stimulus bill. How this is a stimulus is beyond me. But on the NDAA, Trump is threatening to veto it if they don't repeal Section 230 out of the Broadcast Decency Act, isn't it? Where they give a safe harbor to tech companies and media so-called platforms. So he wants it repealed, and he's going to veto it. I will bet you dollars to donuts there's verbiage in that legislation that speaks to re-upping or refunding, not refunding, but refinancing, continuing to pay for the Smith modernization program. Hmm? And they don't know it. Okay, we need to get that word to Trump. But anyway, listen, I'm really excited about Sibel and what she's doing because we are so on the same page. It's amazing. And Vilma, and I spoke to her, we're going to have a chat later because Vilma is so compulsively organized and is perfect to help build this out. And her sister is down in Miami, so we'll get a group in Miami. We'll do West Palm. They got Jacksonville, Naples. We'll get Tampa. We'll do our... We froze. You'll never believe that was Vilma calling me back. Tell me we're not in the groove, campers. The other day when Sibel sent me an email, she said, here's my number. Can we talk this evening about setting this thing up? So I didn't respond until about 3-4 hours later. I saw it. I said, oh, sure. Gave her my number, said, for you only. Let me know if tonight's good. When? So I walked Piglet, came back, and I'm scrolling through the email to look for the number, and the phone rings, and it was an unknown number. It wasn't in my base, so I picked it up. You get this woman's voice and said, hi, have you had dinner yet? Is this a good time to talk? I said, sure. Who's this? She said, it's Sibel. I said, wow, Sibel. I was literally, as the phone rang, clicking on the email. And just as I mentioned Vilma's name, the phone rang. You tell me about those birds of fire, campers. Nice one. Remember we talked about that. I think it was on the other alternate channel about the telepathic communications that these evil ones couldn't control absent their fluoride and calcifying the pineal gland, as they say. I don't know if that's why, but that is certainly a layer that exists. People, intuition. And in that note, listen to your intuition. Things are getting crazy. Things are becoming more intense. Signals are being sent to you through energy and the universe. And if you feel a little squirrely about something, listen to your inner voice. Leave. Don't engage. All right? Because if you don't listen, it doesn't go well. So trust your inner voice. Robert Plant, when he was talking about I should have listened to my inner mind, same thing. The voice. And be still and hear it and listen. Right? Right. Next. So Kaylee does this. We're talking about the Geneva Convention. So that is, in my opinion, is their spin of how they're going to try and get around this if they are ever charged with it, which I doubt. There evidently is another liability shield for them in the stimulus bill that is a sticking point that the administration doesn't want to put forward, which I'm not quite sure. I haven't seen it. This is the scuttlebutt. Okay, next, the Dominion CEO, this Poulos character, a Greek of all things, out of Canada. The full hearing is here. I watched a bit of it. I was disgusted. I think this was Michigan, right? And it was a telephonic, Zoom or a Skype thing. Nobody actually shows up, right? They can stay away, so you can't physically handcuff them. The bottom line is, I didn't believe him. I think he conveniently didn't know and said, well, in my understanding, they can't do that. So that's his version of wiggle room. I don't think the questions were real good. I don't think that they held him to point. I don't think they were prepared. There was no serious cross-examination. It was very fluffy, and that's not what we needed. Even the Epoch Times says the Michigan Senate blew it, right? They sure did. Now, I have T-Rex. This is Tiberosaurus Rex, which I was going to put in last night, and I think I did. That was bizarre with the transmission. T-Rex, I'm calling it On the Time to Harvest. And he's talking about add the most horrific title you want here. This is great, as usual. And what I want you to notice, and I thought this was amusing, we know what he's about, and he's got a, shall we say, spiritual, religious, Bible consciousness without being a thumper. And he is talking on an energetic level of God and listening, right? That inner voice is that same voice, isn't it? So he's wearing a bandana, the way our favorite narrator does, right? I thought that was interesting. I figured I'd spare you the bandana today. Check it out. It's a very interesting piece. The visual's interesting, but what he's talking about will definitely give you a little bit of food for thought, I believe. The next one is Poulos from Dominion. This is a 2-minute clip where he says, no, they can't reassign votes. Yet we saw the election supervisor do that in front of our very eyes. Okay, so, gee, I guess he doesn't know what his equipment can do? Of course not. Next is a thing that is a pretty long blurb talking about what Trump can do. And I forgot the name of this. This is like a Wide Eye View or something like that. This is a relatively new channel, but it's been popping up in my stream. And they were pretty good. Check it out. Tell me what you think. He hits a lot of interesting perspectives. He's not lame, but he's not a razor blade either. So it's a good overview of what's going on in the various scenes and what the potential options are. Moving right along, we've got Senator Ron Johnson. This is a Fox News clip on the election in the Homeland Security meeting. Now, the Homeland Security Committee that he chairs was inquiring about any kind of election questions. And he got into it with another senator, and it's Fox News. I forgot which reporter it was, but Johnson is real good on this, and I think he should know about Smith monetization too, don't you think? And this is a short clip worth watching. And then, of course, this popped up at the end, and I just put this in at the bottom of the list because it always seems the most recent ends up at the bottom. Well, I guess I build the list from the top down. So this is the joint statement. This is important. Take a read on it. It's like 2 paragraphs. This is very important. It's a joint statement from CISA, the Cyber Infrastructure Security Agency, .gov. And it's a joint statement from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, Cybersecurity, and the DNI. And they have said that there is intrusion and they should turn off their routers on their networks. This is as of yesterday. Today's the 17th of December. This was the 16th. Wait a minute, is it the 17th or 18th? Today's I wrote the 17th. Whatever. This is from the 16th, so it's either yesterday or the day before, depending on what day today is. Huh? This is a serious announcement, and it's the real deal. So check it out, because we are being attacked. And does this fit in with the Klaus Schwab theory of life, or does this fit into the Chinese attack? You decide. And do tell. Share your comments. If you like the thinking, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment. And how do they say that? Subscribe. But we are in the quiet, high IQ channel of Farmer Jones right now. So we're going to bring on more quality people with some excellent interviews, and we'll see what happens with the other one. I had to download all of my videos in case the third strike hits and disappears. So we still have a lot of scrambling to do, and yesterday was a crazy day. The energies have been weird. I got an invasion from a wacko brother of mine who is, according to our Chinese astrologer, he was born in the year of the pig, so he's an evil wild boar. Like, yeah, a saboteur. So he came in and disrupted everything, aggravated me, aggravated mother, screamed and yelled for no apparent reason other than to disrupt and threaten and antagonize, looking to facilitate a fistfight or some physical altercation, which I almost went for, but I controlled myself. And I said, listen, get off the property, go away, or I'm calling 911. And he said, we're done here. He said, this is just starting. I go, uh-huh, leave, we're done. And then I just closed the door, which I thought was a very clever idea. That thought hadn't dawned on me until it was time to close the door, and he left. Unbelievable. Stay tuned for more exciting adventures in that regard. Mother is doing better. She is up and about and walking, in a limited, what should we say, limited manner. She's still in pain, but that's getting better. We appreciate the good thoughts and prayers. Yay. And I tell her that. And we'll cook up some good food for her this evening. And we will do lots of good veggies and good nutrition. So we're going to make sure that all works. And I thank the campers from PayPal. I have not sent out thank you notes because I'm going to blame Sibel because she is like occupied like several clips of a couple of 3 hours at a time. I was like, wow. So I'm telling you, this is good stuff. And we've got two feisty people that might be able to put some spin in this. If you want to join, we'll have some fun. Right? Right. All right. So we'll get back to you. So again, I'm putting the PayPal link in. Now that we're limited to limited, please don't forget to help support the channel and the Patreon account. I owe a post there, and I got a couple of interesting comments, and I have to check those links. So thank you for tuning in, campers. I actually went and demonstrated my own version of OCD yesterday, and I answered every comment in the last video on that Farmer Jones guy's channel. And I copied and pasted, said urgent, notice, second strike, and I put a link to this channel. So hopefully people realize that, grabbed it, and jump on over. All right, so we're putting the word out. All right, campers, thanks for tuning in. Leave a comment, subscribe, and we'll be back at you. Excellent. And Sabella's looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to the chat with me, her, and Vilma. Talk to you later. Thank you, campers. FJ out.